Over time, we've lost the most basic movement abilities our bodies were designed for. I know, because a few years ago, I failed every one of these basic mobility tests that we're going to go through today. But I also use them as thresholds to rebuild my mobility from the ground up, rewilding my body and taking back full control of how I move. And today, I'm going to walk you through each one of those so you can see exactly where you stand and how to start getting it back. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. Let's start out with the exercise that had by far the most impact on my full body control and tension, as well as helping me perfect the form of every single exercise I work on, irrespective of it being either a strength, a weighted, or a calisthenics exercise. And that is this exercise. Now, while that doesn't look like much, it is by far the most intense and the hardest isometric exercise I've ever done. And I've been doing exercises like the Lane plank for a very long time. This exercise was brought to me by a circus performer, saw me doing my handstand, and told me he could show me an exercise that would transform my handstand in a single week. And of course, didn't believe him at all until I did it. And within the same session, and I literally mean the same session, I went from being able to hold my handstand for 3 to 4 seconds to 10 seconds. And within a week, I was able to do this consistently. Starting at your feet, put your ankles into complete extension, which means that you have to be completely flexing your posterior chain in your lower legs, lengthening your tibialis. You will have to push your legs together, activating your adductors and extending your knees by flexing your quads. Now, you already have complete tension in every single muscle in your entire leg musculature. And now comes the really hard part. While keeping your legs exactly the same, now you will have to tilt your pelvis until your lower back is in complete contact with the floor and pull your stomach in. Moving up from here, we will now have to extend our arms, push our shoulders towards the ground, and once again, for many people, what will happen is that their lumbar spine starts raising from the floor. It is very hard to keep your entire body in full contact with the ground without having extreme full body tension as well as control. And now we need to extend our arms as much as we can, lengthening our shoulders and our latissimus, and actively push our hands against the floor, activating even more of our shoulder and chest musculature. Now we are basically in complete contact with our entire body. We want to start holding this for 20 to 30 seconds. And trust me, while this looks very easy when you're an outside observer, if you try doing this right now and you can hold it for 10 seconds without cramping, you're far stronger and far more in control of your body than most people are. This exercise will help you perfect your form when it comes to strength exercises like the deadlift, help you perfect your form in any sort of calisthenics exercise that requires even a modicum amount of full body tension or control, help you align your goblin posture you got from working on the computer all day, help you get rid of lumbar mobility and pelvic mobility problems such as falling too much in anterior or posterior pelvic tilt, while strengthening your spinal erectors and your glutes, which are responsible for hip extension, and doing all of that while recruiting motor neurons in your entire musculature, effectively helping you with coordination in every single muscle in your body. Now, by far, my favorite quality of life exercise, and the one that I do religiously pretty much every single day, more often than any other exercise in my life, is a classic dead hang or decompressive hang, which helped me get rid of shoulder mobility problems, get rid of this slump posture that I always used to have, because both my traps as well as my shoulders were really tight and I was always just sitting like this while working. Not to mention that this helped me build the necessary grip strength and forearm strength to truly advance when it came to my calisthenics practice. All you need to do for this one to get the full benefits is hold onto a bar and start relaxing into this hanging position, lengthening your shoulders, decompressing your shoulder joints, decompressing every single vertebrae in your back, and very important, relaxing your lumbar back and lumbar musculature to lengthen your lower back and release a ton of tension most people already carry around there. Which brings us to the next threshold. You should definitely be able to hold this position for 60 seconds without starting to cramp up in your arms or losing your grip. This is by far one of the most rehabilitating positions we can take as humans. And that's also because our bodies were literally designed to hang from things in this way and to swing from branches and do all of the stuff we used to do as children. Additionally, we are stretching out our lats, which also leads to a lot of tension in our back. And the lumbar decompression we're getting is also a necessary part on working on your hip mobility, because your back mobility and your hip mobility are intrinsically connected. So if you ignore all of the exercises we went through today, I would highly advise you to please just do this one, and trust me, in the shortest amount of time, you will see a lot of benefits, and you will probably want to increase your hanging time all by yourself. It will help you become an absolute master of full body control and coordination, building full body strength, full body muscular endurance, and a metric ton of mobility. Not to mention that it is by far one of the most fun exercises you can do in general. And that exercise is crawling. Now, while there are a myriad of varieties when it comes to crawling exercises, the ape-like variations are the ones that I enjoy the most and have helped me the most when it comes to my other training aspects and my total training journey. These include the upright quadruped ape, where your hips are way lower than your shoulders, forcing you to work a lot with your quads and your hip flexors to build massive strength in your legs. The gorilla, where your hips are approximately at shoulder height, adding the tiniest bit more of mobility while shifting the weight and the strength aspect more to your upper body and your shoulders. The short lateral ape-like movements that help you work a lot on ankle, knee and hip mobility while building the same strength for your upper and lower body we had in the other two variations. And the longer ape-like movements, which open up your hips even more, adding insane amounts of adductor as well as posterior chain stretches in your legs while working on that Cossack-like movement pattern, which is this one, and can help you basically master all kinds of Cossack squat variations that are very beneficial for your leg and general strength progression. And of course, while this is not an ape-like movement pattern, the lizard walk combines basically everything we just talked about in a single movement pattern while requiring even more strength, even more control, mobility, and overall tension to be able to execute it for longer than 5 seconds. Crawling in general is a lot of fun even without all of those benefits, but those are more than just a tiny bonus. They can genuinely change your life when it comes to your mobility, your endurance, and your overall coordination, which are very important in any sort of training you do, even if you just want to focus on strength or cardio sports like running or swimming. So adding some of these crawls a handful of times in a week will help you drastically improve your quality of life. Must-do mobility threshold is basically just touching your toes while your legs are fully extended and your back is somewhat in a neutral position, which is the minimum amount of posterior chain flexibility you need to have to not suffer a lot of problems as you age, and most importantly, as you become stronger with other training methods that you might be using. Because strength without flexibility leads to a lot of quality of life problems that you do not want to go through. While the classic toe touch or the forward fold is the beginner level, over time, most of you will want to advance past that into a complete forward fold or a complete tight position for maximum posterior chain flexibility. Working on this is as simple as trying to touch your toes while you're standing, with only 2 things you should be mindful of so you do not cheat yourself out of your progress. When folding forward to touch your toes, try not to flex your spine, meaning rounding your spine and lengthening your shoulders to compensate for a lack of flexibility in your lower body by lengthening your upper body. Instead, start hinging your hip into spinal extension before you start folding forward. Keep your back fully extended and you're already going to notice a stretch by hinging forward the tiniest bit. Over time, you should be able to bring your fingertips all the way down to the floor while your back is completely extended. And that is a sign for you that you do not need to advance if you do not want to. With the second most common problem when people fold forward being that their hips start moving backwards to compensate for a lack of flexibility in their lower leg musculature, because lengthening the angle in your ankles into more of an extension will release the stretch you have around your Achilles, your gastric and soleus. Now, the absolute easiest way to not fall into this problem is working very closely to a wall, which is going to keep you from pushing your hips backwards while you are starting to fold forward. Now, once again, extend your back and just hinge in your hip the tiniest bit and hold this stretch for 20 to 30 seconds before you release it and repeat it once more. An exercise that is going to make this much more beneficial for you is both a stiff-legged deadlift, which is going to combine the flexibility you are building with a lot of strength in your posterior chain, as well as the Jefferson curl, where instead of using your back in an extension, you're going to go into full flexion, lengthening and rounding every single vertebrae until you're all the way down at the end of your range of motion, before once again reversing this movement, strengthening all the surrounding musculature in your posterior chain and helping you strengthen your back in a somewhat compromised position where we are rounded when folding forward. Combining these two exercises with the classic stretch for the forward fold is going to make a world world's difference when it comes to your quality of life. Now, the classic straddle position or the pancake fold was one of the first mobility goals I have ever worked on consistently because of the insane tightness I had in my adductors, which impeded my hip mobility to an absurd degree and led to a lot of issues I had with my joints that I definitely shouldn't be suffering from in my 20s. And while you do not have to be able to fully fold forward in this position, but what you should definitely be able to do is with an extended back, being able to touch your heels. Now, thankfully, working on this is super easy because we've already learned the two most basic mistakes most people do when folding forward, which are the exact same ones you will be focusing on to avoid while you are folding forward in this open position. Internal hip rotation in both legs, meaning we're turning our toes inwards or at the very least parallel like so to actually hit our adductors, because the more we move outward with our feet, the more we're going to focus on our hamstrings, and we already did that with the classic forward fold. Extend your back as well and start hinging forward with very tiny movements and reverse them in a dynamic fashion, flexing your entire posterior chain in the extension, and when hinging, flexing your anterior chain to pull your body down. Which brings us to the number one trick that is going to transform any sort of mobility training you do, which is reciprocal inhibition. We've talked about this before. Your body's mechanism of relaxing a muscle by flexing its antagonist. And in this case, we want to lengthen our anterior chain here as well as our posterior chain here, which means that we will be flexing our quadriceps and our hip flexors, which are responsible for hinging in our hip and keeping our legs completely extended, which is in turn going to completely relax your posterior chain to give you more space to fold forward and to lengthen those muscles properly. And this goes for every single muscle in your body. And just knowing how this works and getting a feeling for this will put you ahead of pretty much 90% of flexibility and mobility practitioners. And our final exercise on this list is more of a concept than an exercise per se, but I trust that you have enough brain capacity and enough creativity to work on this, because it is an absolute must when it comes to longevity and quality of life in general. And that is an ability I have talked about so many times because it is so goddamn important. That is getting up from the floor without the use of your hands, both from a seated position as well as from a laying down position, which means that you will sit down on the floor in as many different variations as you can think of and try to get up from them with different ways of standing up. Be it with one leg extended, both legs extended, in a semi-kneeling position, in a Turkish seat, or whatever you can think of, sit down in that position and try to get up from it, and do so without using any assistance from your hands, because the older you get, the more crucial this skill will become. And if you know how many people over 40 that I've met that cannot do this, you will be mortified by what is to come for you. And if you're already in that age and you can't do it, it is more than time to get to it, because if you think it is bad now, trust me, in a year or two, it will become way worse. And the longer you sleep on this skill, the more you will suffer from neglecting it. So sit the f down, try and stand up, and repeat this over and over and over until you have enough control over your body to be able to get up from the floor from any seating or even laying down position. This will help you in the long run more than any sort of weighted exercise you can do at the gym. This one I'm just going to add as a bonus for the more advanced people here and the ones that truly want to get to a more intermediate to advanced level. A mobility exercise that, if taken to its max level, will help you build not only a lot of control but a lot of full body tension and strength, as well as massive amounts of anterior chain flexibility. Push your hips forward in a seated position, actively push your heels down into the ground, and move into this reverse Nordic curl and start working all your mobility until you can lay down all the way and reverse this movement in a controlled fashion, starting with short ranges of motion, lengthening your anterior chain, actively pushing your hips forward to give the maximum stretchability to your hip flexors and your quads, and over time increasing your range of motion, carefully reverse and increasing it even more and more and more until you are touching down all the way. You can even push your butt down first to have the maximum range of motion before you reverse the entire movement, working on pretty much strengthening your entire anterior chain all the way up to your chest, as well as stretching them all out, because you might be one of the people who actually want to work on a back bridge, for instance. And also because we have not yet addressed the hip flexor problem that most people suffer from, and this one is a perfect exercise to start working on this as well. Exercises that can help you change your entire life quality within 30 days if you can do this regularly, 3 or 4 times a week, which is not that that much to ask when you consider the amount of benefits you can reap from them. If you're still here, thank you so much for... Now, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'm so grateful for all the support we've been having over the past couple of months. If you like the video, and come on, join us. We do stuff like that pretty much every single day, which means that I will see you tomorrow. So until then, Captain Cairo, peace out.